So good morning, everyone. Welcome back. So we will begin our second session of the day. For the second session, today we are on the topic is facilitation methods and modalities. It's going to be a panel discussion hosted by Hyderabad Chapter. We have a wonderful set of panelists with us, Jaita, Abhishek, Preeti, and Kunal is going to be our moderator today. Before we begin this session, I would like to thank our founding sponsor, Innovation Roots. It is a leading consulting and training service provider helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing services and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. Please visit www.innovationzoos.com to see their upcoming summits and trainings. Thank you. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Agile. So, Agile is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Services Limited. It is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprises can use Agile to adopt agile practices or scale across multiple Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as Safe, Disciplined Agile, Less and More. You can also try out Agile for free up to 20 users for 1 year by signing up at agile.io or reach out to us for any inquiries or exclusive product demo. Check out the Agile page on Agile Network India website for more information. Thank you. Now I would like to pass on the mic to the moderator of today's session. Kunal, over to you.
Hello everyone, very good morning to all of you. And first of all, I would like to thank Prakash for giving me an opportunity to moderate such an excellent session on facilitation methods and modalities. So I am Kunal. I have around 5 years of experience in the Agile universe. My Agile journey started with Wells Fargo, wherein I was tasked with the transformation of organization on working from waterfall methodologies into Agile methodologies, and then that journey continued subsequently with FactSet. And currently, I'm working with DBS as an agile delivery lead, where I am concerned with managing the releases of new products for customers on the following the agile methodology principles.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jaita and I'm currently working for Microsoft as a program manager, delivery excellence services. I have a total of 18 years of industry experience and had earlier worked for IBM and Cognizant Technology Solutions in the capacity of delivery manager, transformation, and continuous improvement manager. I'm a certified agile coach, safe agilist, safe DevOps practitioner, and Scrum Master. I have been instrumental in driving agile transformations and implementation of scaled agile framework. I am passionate about driving transformation programs with the objective of improving efficiency and effectiveness. And today I am super excited to be here to share my experience on facilitation methods with all of you. Thank you. Abhishek, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, Jaita. Thank you. Yeah. Hi, all. This is Abhishek. Good morning to everyone. This is Abhishek Bose, and I am having total 15 years of IT experience, and I have worked in different domains like banking, telecom, and for the last 6 years, I have been working as Agile Transformation Coach for different banking organizations, and currently I am working as Agile Coach in DBS Bank. Thank you. Over to you, Preeti.
Sure. A very good morning, everyone. My name is Preeti. So I would describe myself as an engineering leader with 18 years of experience in managing software and hardware projects using agile and waterfall methodologies. I am currently associated with Pega Systems for about a year, and I am an engineering manager managing their CRM product. Prior to joining Pegasystems, I have spent 9 years in Polycom, where I have played different roles. So, when Polycom started its agile transformation journey, I was one of the first few to be agile certified, and I took on various roles in this agile transformation journey for Polycom. Okay, before Polycom, I also spent a couple of years in Wipro Technologies, where I worked for telecom domain, a leading telecom domain company. Okay, so I like to bring fun and purpose into all my interactions. So today's topic of facilitation techniques is very dear to my heart. I am excited to move it forward and hear from all our panelists and the moderator. Thank you very much, and over to you, Kunal.
Thank you so much, guys. So to start with, I would say in my years of observing countless sessions and discussions, I have come across multiple scenarios where you find a group of people who, when they find the topic interesting, launch a spirited discussion, completely diverging from the agenda. And in the same session, you will find another group who feels the discussion as merely splitting hairs and a waste of time. Their body language and actions, such as checking their phones or emails in between the sessions, serve as a distraction for everyone in the group. Now, the result is the entire session goes overboard with time with no constructive outcome, and people leave feeling disgruntled. So, Preeti, I would like to invite you to speak. So, are these scenarios familiar to you, and how do you tackle such a situation?
Sure, Kunal. So I think the picture, the slide that is projected says it all. There is a passionate speaker who is trying to put forward his thought process using some pictures. So if you see, there is a person lost in his coffee and involved in on a mobile phone. There is a group who are lost in their laptops, and there is another group who is starting their private talk. So this is not an uncommon sight in many of the meetings. I have been, in my experience, I have been a part of many meetings where a group of people just walked out of the meeting feeling disgruntled, and that we are not converging, or the my voice is not being heard. So this is not new. I think as part of our today's session, we will speak about how we can ensure facilitation goes through. So I would like to get started here, and what I want to say first is, you know so I would start with some statistical data. Okay, so studies show that only 50% of the meeting time is used effectively. Okay, there is evidence that remote meetings score even lower. With this study, I think this study and the topic that we are discussing today, are tightly coupled, and we would go over the techniques that we can use to make our meetings better and definitely provide a relief to all the attendees. Okay, so, in my view, investment in preparedness for meetings and practicing facilitation techniques would help a lot to tackle such situations. A successful meeting needs structure and purposeful activities that facilitate collaboration between attendees. Having a long PowerPoint presentation or endless debates alone does not suffice a successful meeting. Okay, specifically to talk about facilitation, which is the topic of the day. Facilitation starts the moment the attendees join the meeting or they walk into the room. Okay, since many of us often experience meetings as interruptions, taking us away from the real work, the leader's first task, or the facilitator's first task, is to promote a sense of presence among attendees. There are several ways to do it: by greeting people as they join, expressing gratitude for the time and for them to attend the meeting, and when at times we are waiting for others to join, we can have some light hearted discussion or playing soft music. This ensures that the correct frame of mind is achieved. It is also important to start with a purposeful opening statement explaining why everyone is gathered here. We can also consider, so I in general I practice this, that we can also consider group or individual accomplishment which remains attendees of their meeting values. So we can speak about the previously agreed upon rules of engagement, such as keeping mobiles or laptops switched off. All of these techniques help people feel welcomed and they are primed to tackle the task as hand. Okay, as the conversation gets started, try to adopt the facilitator needs to adopt a stewardship mindset. We need to ask questions, engage others, model active listening, also trying to draw out any concerns from the attendees, and managing conflicts. Of course, at times facilitators will also need to offer their own opinions and directives to move the discussion forward. The key, however, is that the facilitator understands that he is primarily playing a supportive role. Okay, this ensures that there is a genuine give and take. Attendees feel free on safe speaking up, and they leave feeling committed to the outcomes. For meetings that go nowhere, as the one Kunal started about, there are a few guiding principles that we can follow. I think we'll discuss in depth in further ahead. But in terms of a guideline to follow, always have an attitude of respect, communicate the purpose of the meeting, finish one topic or issue before moving on to the next, and give everyone an opportunity to participate, and create a plan of action before you end. Okay. So as we discuss further, I would like to give it on to Kunal. Over to you, Kunal.
Yeah, that was a really startling statistic, Preeti. 50% of meetings being unproductive. And to agree, I personally feel very frustrated looking at verbose PowerPoints with a lot of details on them. I would like to listen from any other panelists. What are their views on?
Yeah, Kunal. So I think I can put my points forth. Mostly Preeti covered everything, but definitely such situations need immediate focus, and facilitators oversee the organization and the progress of the meetings or events to alleviate tension as much as possible, so that people can keep aside their individual agendas and get on with the overall objective, right? So as a facilitator, it is very very important that we remain non-judgmental. The most important point here is to listen with empathy to everyone's view, and once that is done, we can ask questions and help the members go point by point to resolve the issues themselves, right? So it is very important to remain impartial too, because the ultimate objective of a facilitator is to get the best out of the participants, right? So while I was leading transformation and change, this was a very very common scenario, but I think with perseverance we were able to overcome this. So that's all is my viewpoint, Kunal, on this.
Yep. Some really good pointer there about being impartial. I think that's really important. Okay, so that brings us to the next question, which would be like, what are the different types of facilitation methods a facilitator can employ? So, Abhishek, would you like to add on that?
Sure, Kunal. Yeah, hi all. It's a pretty interesting question. Okay, so let me give you all a brief about different facilitation techniques I have used, or rather, as a facilitator, we all can use. First is that directive technique. In this technique, the facilitator usually provide information and instruction to develop a work plan. So what happens in this type of facilitation technique, usually the tech lead or the manager, they are the one who facilitate these ceremonies or meetings. And in this type of technique, the facilitator usually come prepared with the plan, and they just put forward the plan across to the audience rather than taking the input from the audience. Okay. And also we can use as a facilitator this technique at the time of beginning of a meeting, because at the beginning the team members or the audience need more moderation, and they want someone to take charge and provide the direction. Okay, so that's actually summarize the directive type of facilitation. Next is exploratory. In this type of facilitation technique, the facilitator usually asks questions, different types of probing questions, to encourage all the members and the audience to voice out their experience and ideas. So this type of exploratory questions actually help the meeting to get from more information out of the audience and the participants, and it actually provides the direction of the meeting. Okay. Next is delegating type of technique. So in this type of facilitation technique, the facilitator usually come and start meeting, and then he or she starts assigning different role and tasks to the individuals. So in this case, what happens, I'm giving you one example, is that the facilitator can select someone from the team to be the moderator, play the moderator role, and someone else to take the notes for the meeting. So this is one of the example. Or else in agile ceremonies also, this type of delegating facilitation technique can be used at the time of sprint planning ceremonies, where we can request individual to take their task, or we can assign the task, though assigning is not a suggested method. Fourth, technique is participative technique. So in this case, what happens, the facilitator, who usually is one of the team member or one of the team members, usually work as a facilitator, and he or she participate into the discussion and provide point as a member as well. So he or she can direct the meeting in that same way. Okay, and retrospective is one of the ceremony where this type of facilitation technique can be used. Next is interpretive. So in this case, what happened? In this case, suppose as a facilitator, I usually come in or I start facilitating the ceremony or meeting, and sometimes I feel that the resources or my team members or the participants, they are saying something but not, but they're searching for words. They are not coming up about, or they are not able to provide the proper word. So in this case, the facilitator usually try to help the team members or the participants with proper word so that they can express their feeling about the topic. Okay, and last but not the least is the evaluative type of facilitation technique. In this case, we use this type of facilitation technique is used at the time of evaluation. Like a sprint demo is one of the example, because in the sprint demo, usually our product owner or the business leads, they come and provide the evaluation about the product we delivered at the end of the iteration. So that's all from my side on this exciting topic of different types of facilitation technique. Over to you, Kunal.
Yeah, some really good techniques there, Abhishek. And so my next question will be, so how do you suggest people use these techniques? Like, should they always be used independent of each other, or can people mix and match these according to the scenarios and demands of the audience?
Yeah, so what I have done in my experience, in my past, so from my experience, I can suggest that we should not use a single technique for facilitation for a specific type of meeting. So it's like we should be using mix and match as per the scenarios and as per the situation demands. So that's the answer to your question. So it's like a mix and match.
That makes it clear. Yep.
Yeah.
And any other panelists would like to add their views on this?
Sure, Kunal. I like to put forth my views here. So Abhishek has very well covered all the facilitation techniques that we can use. I want to cover the softer aspects as well. So for any facilitation technique to work, I think we need to build a trust in the room. So the attendees need to feel safe to express their viewpoint. So I think as a facilitator, it is the responsibility of the person to ensure that everyone is openly speaking up. To do this, I think the first thing that we should do is the facilitator should lead by example. They should show that how the point that Jaita mentioned, right, that being impartial, not being judgmental, these are all things that they need to do. In addition, they need to have a very strong presence, and a facilitator needs to be observing the audience for their verbal and non-verbal cues. This would help the facilitator understand how the discussion is progressing. If there is any course correction needed, I think there can be a detour taken in the facilitation and move ahead in the meeting. That's all I would like to add, Kunal.
Okay. That's a really important skill, Preeti. As facilitators, we should have keen observation skills, and we should definitely look out for verbal and non-verbal cues from the audience. So talking about audience brings the next question to my mind, and that would be, what will be a difference between an executive level facilitation and a mixed group facilitation? So Abhishek, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so from my experience, what I have seen that these two types of facilitation techniques are not same. We have already spoken a lot about mixed group facilitation, but executive facilitation is a completely different ballgame. Because before I proceed, I would like to highlight the fact that executives are those members of the organization who are actually having very little time in their hand to waste. So keeping that in mind, the first I would come to the points which as a facilitator we should follow at the type of facilitating. Okay, first thing is the preparation. Getting getting ourselves prepared is the first and foremost point as a facilitator we should keep in mind. Okay, and when I say preparation, it's like there are different things as a preparation I would like to highlight. First is the content preparation. As a facilitator, we need to remember that if the executives are not happy with the content, and though I will, as a facilitator, I might not be presenting, but I will be setting the direction as a facilitator. So the way the content direction is given, if that is not correct, then going forward, the executives might not join this specific meeting and they will choose some other meeting over that. Okay, so the content preparedness is something which is very much important. The subject, when I say content, it is actually with the, it starts with the subject preparation, then the breakdown of the the progress of the meeting. This has to be shared at the in advance as well. Next is that the logistics preparation, like we should have the all the logistics ready. In our current scenario, we should have the video conference details shared, and slides or decks are also shared. So this comes under the preparation part. And one more point I would like to highlight as part of the preparation, one or two dry runs should be, as a facilitator, we should do before coming to the meeting, okay? So that we can well prepare for the meeting. Next is that at the time of facilitation, as a facilitator, we should be using or showcase more graphs and charts wherever applicable and possible, rather than just running text. Because running text make the meeting more formal, and it would not be formal, it's like more boring. So just to add visualization, we should be adding charts and graphs. Next, the data is the most important thing which the executives are looking into, because data can give you more and more insight rather than speaking about the situation. So we should be providing the relevant data points in our slides. The last, and not, I would not say last, but one more point which I would like to highlight for the different types of workshops. For long running workshops, if we are facilitating as a moderator or facilitator, we should try to gamify. We should use different types of games to showcase the benefit or the process on of how the things will work out. So as an example, I would like to say how the Scrum framework can be used. We can play small games and or maybe small iterative games so that we can showcase the benefits of the usage of the sprint framework or Scrum framework for the teams or the organization. Okay. And last but not the least point is that if the meeting is on cadence, then at the end of the meeting, we should share the minutes of meeting to all the audiences, and we should start the meeting with the last meeting's minutes of meeting and the action item closure, so that we can give the value proposition also, and we will not be having any open-ended questions. Understand, right? So it's like from the beginning to closure, these are the things as a facilitator, if we follow, then from my experience, I can say that we would be successfully, we would be managing the facilitation for the executive groups. Yeah, that's all from my side. Over to you, Kunal.
Some really great points there, Abhishek. And personally, gamification will be my favorite. I really like it when long meetings have some sort of an activity. It really gets the brain juices flowing. So yeah, really great points. Any other panelists would you like to add on this?
Yeah, Kunal. So I think I can add to this. And in my experience, like while facilitating executives, I've realized that it's very important to connect to the why aspect, why we are doing it. So the leadership or the executives need to be convinced on the reasons for whatever the objective of the facilitation is. That has to be very clear to us as facilitators, right? We should be able to connect to the broader picture, because they would always like to, since they always think big, and the vision and these aspects should be very clear to the facilitator also, right? Another important aspect is the benefit realization or the metrics. So what are the data points, right? How success would look like from a data visualization standpoint? I think these are the things that we should connect to as facilitators. Also on the timelines, definitely I think every kind of a change or facilitation or transformation, there should be clarity around the timelines and challenges that we may foresee. So I think this is something that the facilitator should orient the leadership on the challenges and what the pros and cons are, right? So they also want to understand the what if aspect of it. What by saying what if, I mean the if there are any plan B or what are the alternate solutions that can be taken. So that is also something that the facilitator can orient through some past experience, through some case studies, so that they get to see all the options available. Definitely decision and the execution would be theirs, but I think as facilitators, these are the certain things for exec level facilitation we should take care of. So I have led a couple of workshops with clients, CIOs and SVPs, and I think these are the pointers that have been very, very helpful to me. Back to you, Kunal.
Yep. Thanks, Jeta. Thanks for sharing those experiences. This would really help. Executive level meetings are a little different, so and these pointers would really help. And any Preeti, would you like to add something?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, see, when you compare a group level facilitation and an executive level facilitation, I think in an executive levels, what we say facilitation, statuses are a no. What we can do is, because the executives are always looking for value proposition, the decisioning aspects, as Jaita has mentioned, whatever data is needed, in order to shorten the time that we are spending to go over the data, we can send the data well ahead of the meeting and include in the agenda, that this data is already presented, these are the positives and the pros and cons, everything can be presented in advance, so that the execs come prepared, and with a limited time in our hand, we are able to go towards a conclusion, or converge on the decisions. So that's something that I would want to add.
Excellent point, Preeti. I'm definitely going to try it out for my next discussion as well. Feel this would really add some values. Okay, so while we're speaking a lot about the different facilitation techniques and then the methods and all, there would be one important aspect which we would also like to understand is like how do we ensure the effectiveness of the facilitation? So, Jaita, can we hear from you on this?
Yeah, definitely, Kunal. So, you see, in my opinion, the most important point for a facilitator to keep in mind is that he or she should be fully independent of the group. So while we carry out several facilitations sessions and all, this has always to be kept in mind, right? So he or she influences or leads the group to an outcome, but does not get into it, right? So if you're a facilitator, you will need to put aside your views and lead the event or the facilitation from an impartial standpoint. I've told this earlier also. So this has to be always, whatever be our personal views or experiences have been, we have to keep that a little aside, right? So when we are carrying out a facilitation, so what does a facilitator do, right? So an effective facilitator can aid a group to come to a consensus, deal with difficult issues, again helping in dealing with difficult issues, participation on an equal footing. So this is, as I mentioned, it has to be very, very balanced kind of a participation, right? Definitely build positive relationships, help the team or the participants make decisions and find new ways forward, right? So these are like very crucial things for effective facilitation. But again, to ensure that the overall facilitation is very, very effective, there is a set process, and just not facilitation, I think everything that we want to try to make it effective, there is a process that we need to follow. And I typically use this kind of a 5-stage facilitation process, right? So the first thing is the scope and assessment of what is needed to make the facilitation successful, right? So a very good due diligence would take you a long way as an effective facilitator. A lot of analysis is needed, understanding the objective, understanding the participants and the anticipated outcomes. So if this kind of a thorough study is done and we understand the scope of the facilitation, I think we can go ahead in a long way as effective facilitators, right? The next point that is again very important is designing the structure of the meeting or event, right? So as you know, Abhishek pointed out that gamification, for example, right? So when would you place the games? How would you start the conversations with? How do you break the ice? And the sequence of the events during the facilitation, right? So designing this entire thing also plays a very good role in terms of facilitation, right? It should never be monotonous for the participants, and definitely it goes a long way in effective facilitation. The third and the most important one is again preparation. Now the way preparation is different from designing is like, how do we go at organizing the event, right? Dry runs again, Abhishek and Preeti had mentioned earlier, planning for the logistics, ensuring all the prerequisites are taken care of, even trivial things like, lighting, sound, post-its, markers, these play a very, very important role, right? And I think we are all remote for the last 1 year or so. So in such cases, like access to the various tools or whiteboards, whatever collaborative tools that you are using for the facilitation, ensure that the audience has the desired access to it and all. So these things are very, very important for the entire facilitation aspect to be very effective, right? And then again, facilitating the event, right? So we are all kind of running an event now. So it's very important that the facilitator is extremely high on energy, right? And I think this is the mantra, because you are the person who is going to connect with the audience, right? So remain engaged throughout the facilitation, ensure holistic participation. So we as facilitators, we many a times see that there are a section of participants who are very, very enthusiastic, and then there are few who do not open up easily. So it's up to us as facilitators to ensure that we ensure that the entire audience participates. There is a lot of energy that that is moving through, and as far as possible give real time examples, because the entire audience would look up to you as a facilitator. So giving real time examples is very, very important. And last but not the least, capturing value, right? So how do we go about doing this, right? So documenting the relevant session outcomes, the metrics, again I would call out here feedback. Collecting feedback is just one aspect of it, but analyzing that feedback is very, very important, right? So go through the feedback that the audience has provided and ensure that those points, as far as possible, can be implemented in the subsequent facilitation. So again, this is like a 5-stage facilitation process. I always take care of this, and this has helped me immensely. So I would go for this kind of a thing. Back to you, Kunal.
Yep. I'm glad I had a good breakfast so that my energy levels are not down. But yeah, being impartial, promoting openness, and capturing value. These are some of the key points I'm taking from here. And I guess everyone likes to see some sort of a decision or a value add coming out at the end of a meeting or discussion. So yeah, that's very important. Anyone else would like to pitch in with their views?
Yeah, I would like to add few points. I would not say I will add few points. I will just try to give some points which I would like to share. But I think Jaita already summed it up excellently. All the points she covered. From my side, I will just give some points, but I will not go into the detail. As a facilitator, we should showcase empathy. All the whenever we are facilitating, we should showcase empathy so that all our audience and the participants feel that this person knows our pain and tries to resolve the pain. They have to resolve their pain, but I, as a facilitator, I should help them to do that. Next skill, which as a facilitator we all should have, is active listening skill. Jaita already said that, which is very important. And we, as a facilitator, we should understand the verbal and non-verbal cues from the audience so that we can gauge how the energy level of the team. And we also need to look into the conflict management as a whole, because different kinds of conflicts can also arise. I will not take much time. I will take the next 30 seconds. We should be recording the outcomes, which already Jaita touch base, and flexibility. Also, flexibility as a facilitator is also something which we should always look up to, because we as a facilitator we should not be a rigid person. Okay. And last point from my side is consensus building. In a retrospective or this type of discussion, we should get the consensus from everyone before closing that point, which is into argument or which is into discussion. Okay, that's all from my side there. Over to you, Kunal.
Yeah, I completely second you on that, Abhishek. Equal participation should be a key criterion for each and every discussion or meetings. So now coming towards the end, I feel this question becomes extremely important, especially in a remote working scenario where we are having to interact virtually rather than physically. So what tools and techniques can be used to make the facilitation more engaging and effective? Preeti, would you want to take up that?
Sure, Kunal. Yeah. So I think we have touched upon the different techniques as part of the different questions, but I think I'll sum it up in I mean, what are the sequential steps that we need to take? See, facilitation for the meeting, even before the meeting starts, I think the first step is to, decide on the number of attendees whom we have and what are the decisions that we need to take, and send a clear agenda item even before. Okay. Now, moving on to as we start the meeting, I think I've covered this earlier that a quick check-in would help really. Quick check-in will help us, will specifically help if it's a diverse participant group, they do not know each other. So we can spend the first few minutes understanding why have we met together. See, oftentimes in meetings we see that different people have different opinions of what is the action to be taken and what should the outcome be. So setting it right even before we jump into the meeting will help us to keep the meeting all the participants focused towards the outcome. Okay, so once we have a quick check-in, I did talk about quick check-in, that you greet the people, appreciate their time, and then also encourage, do positive affirmations. How have we done it earlier? So these kind of things will help. A little further on, review the desired outcomes and the agenda items. So this is, I mean, whatever we have done in the mail or for the agenda items, review the desired outcome just before we start. Okay, next we can have additional meeting roles. So what we can do is see, the success of a meeting should always not be restricted or the responsibility of a facilitator alone. We should make the entire group of attendees a participation as participants to this success. So what we can do is we can have additional meeting roles like taking notes or filling up action items which the other team members can take up. What this will ensure is there is a shared purpose that this meeting we need to be achieving and we need to have successful outcomes. So these are all the things that we do before we start. Once we start the meeting, so the facilitator needs to have active listening skills. They need to take stock of the situation. If the discussions are going beyond time, we can have time boxing. So what time boxing does is that if we have 5 agenda items to be covered, we say that in a half an hour meeting we say 5 minutes for each topic. That way we would be able to time box. Time box also helps to ensure that not only one participant speaks at all times. We might want to, when multiple people want to speak, we might want to stack rank them and say, okay, first participant A speaks, then B speaks, and then we cover majority of the all of the participants who want to express their opinion. Okay, so at times when meetings get what we say heated and we are having long discussions, it would help when facilitator just pauses for a while, allows time for reflection, and also synthesizes this point. So whatever we have viewed or heard from the different participant, try to summarize it and bring the perspective back to the meeting agenda. So this will help when we are going a little hayward and getting into the depth. Okay, and always I would say build trust in the room. encourage and balance participation, take views from all the participants. So this is something that I always do. So if there are a certain participants who have not spoken, so specifically call them out and try to understand if they do not want to share their opinion, why they do not want to share their opinion. So these kind of things facilitation can do. And finally, providing a closure. When we say providing a closure, why this is very important, because once we have discussed this, taking up these action items and moving ahead is very important. So so there is a scientific way of taking up actions. So what all do we need to do when we want to take actions? So first discuss what is the action point, when the action is to be scheduled, and the estimated completion date, who is assigned that action, and progress. So in the subsequent meeting, when we start, just before we go into the agenda, we can go over the action items, who has, and discuss what is the progress already made, and then look at the progress to be made. So I think that sums it all, Kunal, and over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Preeti. Some really great pointers there. And so, any other panelists have any views on that?
Yeah, I'll quickly cover one aspect. So I have used social contract a lot, right? So before any facilitation and all, and wherein all the participants, they themselves put the do's and don'ts when they would want the break or the lunch times. And again, icebreakers, energizers, breakout sessions. So these have been very, very helpful in ensuring the momentum goes on. And again, a retrospective at the end. So what went well and what we could have improved. So summarize key takeaways. Anyway, Preeti has mentioned that in detail. And from a tooling perspective, I have used Mural extensively, especially in these remote times for any kind of brainstorming sessions. So this has been very, very useful. And again, there are lots of collaboration tools as well, Teams, WebEx and all. They're all wonderful tools, and I think all of them cater to the needs of an effective facilitation. That's all I had, Kunal, from my end.
Yep, valid points. I am definitely going to try social contracts in the next meeting, which I facilitate. So yeah, so this has been so much of a learning. I mean, I really cannot wait to facilitate a session at my workplace with such excellent techniques now in my armory. So I'm sure the audiences would be feeling the same. With that being said, we will now move to our Q&A session. We'll take questions from the audience. And I see we already have some questions posted there. So let me quickly go through them. So the first question is from Ajay Solanki. It is, should the facilitators know Scrum or Agile? So who would want to take that one? Okay, Abhishek, I see you raising your hand. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question, but we would like to know that whether different types of facility meetings or ceremonies are there, right? If it is agile ceremony, then the facilitator should be knowing the basic of the agile. Because if you are going to a sprint planning meeting, if you don't know the scrum or the basic principles, you would not be even able to facilitate the sprint planning session. As a facilitator, if I am going to facilitate a retrospective ceremony, so I will not be able to facilitate that if I don't know what actually as a facilitator I need to do in the retrospective ceremony. Or the same thing with the daily huddle or demand planning for Kanban. So these are the basic, or the product backlog refinement, right? The definition of ready, we should be having facilitator. As a facilitator, I should be knowing what is there. So if it's an agile ceremony, then it is expected that the facilitator should be knowing at least about principles of the ceremonies. I'm not saying he or she has to know through all the process, everything about the agile or agility, but at least what happens, what is the expected outcome of the ceremony, he or she should be aware. But if it's a meeting which is not an agile ceremony, like team meetings, right, we usually have, or delivery related meeting, or maybe I would say maybe our release related meeting, not release planning, release related release planning, not release planning per se, it's before release we have, right, that the whether it's a go or no go decision, those meetings, those cases, agile, it doesn't matter whether you know agile, whether you know waterfall. Okay, so that's all from my side. Over to you.
Okay, Okay, that's a good one, Abhishek. Yeah. Okay, the next question is from Prashant. It says, if it is a meeting within a team, would it help to have the facilitator role on a rotation plan? So now this has already been answered on the chat. Like it should be on a rotation plan so that team members get the ownership of organizing the events. Anyone would like to add anything to that?
Yeah, Kunal, I can do that. Yes, in internal meetings, definitely this is a good idea. But one thing that we should keep in mind is the person who is taking up this facilitator role is really interested in doing so. Okay, it should be voluntary and it should not be imposed. So that is very essential for us to keep in mind. But again, if it's like outside a team or for let's say again an executives kind of a facilitation, I think it's better to go with some experience, right? And the experience definitely would come through these kind of internal meeting facilitation and all, right? So again a case to case basis, this can be taken up. That's all, Kunal, from my end.
Yes. Yep. Really valid point. And then this one is from Amita. I think it's more of a request. I think this should be for you, Jaita. Like, if you can provide a reference document on 5 stages of facilitation.
Yeah, so a
Uh,
reference document, again, I would say that definitely these steps are very important. But each of these things that we need to do in the 5 stages depends again on the type of facilitation that we are doing, right? So there are definitely a lot of references onto this, but what fits in into each of this is again a case to case basis kind of a thing. There are several standard templates that can be leveraged for, let's say, retrospective templates or some feedback analysis templates and all, but again the overall case needs to be kept in mind, right?
okay, all right. And this next question is from Padmavati, and this is for you, Preeti. Engaging participants in taking minutes and action items work with team meetings. Does it work with other meetings, or what should be done there?
Absolutely, Padmavati, right? Yeah, Padmavati, definitely. See, whatever the meetings, right? So what I would say is that, I mean, if we have to get a shared purpose, we also share the responsibility and make it a shared goal that we achieve the meeting outcomes. So this can be a voluntary. We can ask if any attendees wants to take up. If they do not want to take up that role, then I think we should not rub that role as facilitators. So we can discuss if anyone wants to take on the time, a time box role or an attendee or a notes taking role, and then go ahead. I hope it answers, Padmavati.
Yeah, we will take this last one. So this is from Shilpi. This is, should facilitator know the contents and understand the agenda?
Yeah, Kunal,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
like to
Abhishek, go
answer
ahead,
that.
please. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always advisable to the facilitator to know the agenda and at least know the brief and at least have the brief of the content. Because if it's an executive meeting without knowing the content, it's not that you have to understand, but you need to know the agenda and the content. That one after another, what will come. Otherwise, because what happens at the executive meeting, we usually brief before we start the meeting, and we also sometimes say the expected outcome. So without knowing the content and agenda, if we go blindly, then that might that might bring a catastrophic result. Okay, but in case of like retrospective or sprint planning or general meetings, yeah, if we go without knowing the content, that's fine, but at least the agenda should be aware to the facilitator, because I am the one as a facilitator who is going to facilitate and moderate the meeting, right? So as a facilitator, I should be aware at least the agenda, if not the content in detail. That's all from my side.
Okay. All right. So I think we are at the end. I see there are one or more couple questions, but I'm really sorry in the interest of time. Maybe you
Yeah.
can connect with our panelists
Yeah,
over LinkedIn.
with the
Yeah.
panelists over LinkedIn. I will share their profile links as well if needed in the chat box itself. So that brings us to the end of this session. So I would like to thank all the panelists and our moderator Kunal, Jaita, Abhishek, Preeti. You all were wonderful. The session was very informative, and I'm pretty sure it has helped our audience and me as well to be a better facilitator for all the sessions and events upcoming. So thank you so much.